Hello and welcome to my little fashion corner. Today we're talking about the one, the only Marc Jacobs himself. What an absolute legend. Now, everything I say in this video is based on research and my personal opinion, and we are just, taking this for the purposes of entertainment, learning a little bit more about fashions, etc. Also, I would be very much grateful if you subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. It's an exclusive club, I promise. Let's get started.
The everyday clothes that make up an urban landscape, like parkas, jeans, military, all these kind of things. And then we thought, how do we pump it up? How do we make it like sort of entertaining? Because who wants to see a bunch of jeans and parkas?
Marc Jacobs, this absolutely gorgeous, stylish, charming human being, is fashion famous. There is no doubt. However, at least in my personal opinion, on a very superficial level. I actually read an article that talked about how Marc Jacobs is famous for his perfumes. There is a little bit more to this story, okay? Now, why am I talking about Marc Jacobs now? Well, I talk about his era at Louis Vuitton quite often, at whomever is willing to listen, and I think I officially ran out of those people, so you're welcome. However, Marc Jacobs is currently massively featured for his collaboration with Fendi, celebrating 25 years of the Fendi baguette. And on top of it, Fendi chose Marc Jacobs' design for Fendi's 2023 Lunar New Year collection, which is a Marc Jacobs themed monogram of Fendi Roma in a red and white combination. If you're interested, both of those collections are still available in boutiques and online. Now let me use this opportunity and brag about my own Fendi baguette. Here's my one and only baby, coincidentally from the 2021 Lunar New Year collection. It's the medium size, the small size is about this big, and the large one is about this big, which helps you exactly 0%, I understand. As far as I know, these days a baguette comes with a top handle strap and also with a crossbody. This one comes with a leather one. Sometimes they come with a chain strap or a fabric one. Now that we got that casual flex sorted, I don't think he needs an excuse to be talked about. However, do not consider this the complete history and works of Marc Jacobs, although that would have been incredibly cool. And as a matter of fact, should the real Marc Jacobs be watching this and super eager to get interviewed, Mr. Jacobs, there is an email address attached to this channel. I'll clear my schedule, like anytime. Let me tell you about the absolute icon that Marc Jacobs really is, as there is a lot that I would like to get to. Formalities first and foremost, putting this story into context. A little bit of account management. Marc Jacobs is born and bred New Yorker. He's 59 years young and married to his long-term partner, Charlie DeFrancesco, who is the founder of A Bougie Candle by Char DeFrancesco, also known as Get Lit by Char. 1894, Marc Jacobs brand is founded. 1896, Marc Jacobs designed his first collection bearing the label Marc Jacobs. 1897, a year later, he is the youngest designer ever been awarded Council of Fashion Designers of America's Perry Ellis Award for New Fashion Talent, which sounds like a big deal and a mouthful, because it is. In May 1986, Perry Ellis sadly passes away, and in 1987, Marc Jacobs joined Perry Ellis' label as president of the Women Design Unit, also overseeing women's licensees. 1992, the Council of Fashion Designers of America awarded Jacobs with the Women's Designer of the Year award. You could say things are going pretty well for him. And this story that I'm going to tell you touched many, yet remains lesser known. But connecting the dots is what makes it so much fun. Well, at least for me, because I love fashion and grunge. This is absolutely an essential piece of fashion history. Picture it. North America, 90s, the grunge scene is in full swing. People hate everything. They make songs about it. They create communities to get together and hate everything. And I'm gonna say capitalism is a frontrunner of a topic somewhere in there. In 1992, Marc Jacobs presents Spring-Summer 93 grunge-inspired collection as Perry Ellis Ready-To-Wear. As a gesture of tribute to grunge, Jacobs sends samples of the collection to Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love. In 2010, Courtney Love told Women Wear Daily, "We burned it. We were punkers. We didn't like that kind of thing." Which is funny given how much she wanted to be... Do you know what? Never mind. Journalists, editors, critics, buyers, they raged against the collection and they trashed it and burned it. Well, figuratively. New York Magazine headline read, "Grunge, 1992 to 1993. R.I.P." Later that year, Kurt Cobain was photographed wearing a t-shirt that said, "Grunge is dead." Jacobs was fired from Perry Ellis. The line was shut down and the pieces never went into production. Marc Jacobs just ended his career. Funnily enough, amongst consumers, Marc Jacobs is labeled a pioneer of youth, an evangelist, a renegade. Newspapers continue to diss him though. In 1993, Marc Jacobs tells New York Times, "I didn't want them to look like queens and I didn't want them to look like creatures. That's the way beautiful girls look today. They look a little bit unconcerned about fashion." 20 years later, then critic Kathy Horan retracts her 1993 statement about violet-scented peevishness and self-conscious loveliness commanded at the high price, and interviewed him about that iconic grunge collection, calling it her favorite thing. I can only say that Marc Jacobs is probably a better person than I am. And so Marc Jacobs rises. Because whether they have hated it or hated it, the anti-chic, anti-glamour statement proved itself absolutely pivotal. And it became obvious that Marc Jacobs knew exactly what he was doing. And he will continue to do just that. He opens his first Marc Jacobs store in 1997 in downtown New York City. Jacobs single-handedly ruled the 2000s fashions, and years at Louis Vuitton are personally my favorite chapter to date. I'm still monitoring pre-loved websites, trying to see if I can get my hands on, well, just about anything. But humor me for a moment. I don't think he had the same job as, for example, Alexander McQueen at Givenchy or John Galliano at Dior, or even Martin Margiela, who was living through his own big debut at Hermès at the same time. Marc Jacobs had been hired not to bring new ideas, not to revive or revolutionize a fashion house. He was hired by a leather goods, small, medium and large, and accessory company to create a ready-to-wear branch that had never existed before. Let me just repeat that. Louis Vuitton had exactly 0 ready-to-wear lines pre-Marc Jacobs. In a 1998 interview with the Financial Times, Marc Jacobs says, "Design is always subjective, but quality is objective. And that's what attracted me to Louis Vuitton." Marc Jacobs accepted the offer to become an artistic director, and he held that title from 1997 to 2013, and was succeeded by Nicolas Ghesquière, who is still presiding at Louis Vuitton. During his reign, he introduced the Louis Vuitton Vernis pattern, the scrapbooks and city books. Jacobs also invited various artists to collaborate. We're just going to talk about that in a bit. All in all, making daring but very wise decisions, helping the brand gain the momentum, the prestige we're currently familiar with. Jacobs just brought Louis Vuitton to another level, defining new possibilities for women and men, yet the focus of fashion was on women's wear, breathing life into that urban chic persona, resulting in Louis Vuitton just skyrocketing through their business goals, and by that I mean making Louis Vuitton Moët Hennessy a whole heap of cash and creating a little legacy. A true 90s collection. His first ready-to-wear line was either a response to the demand of minimalism, a safe bet, or a very calculated genius step. Marc Jacobs then said, "The clothes were contemporary, classic, luxurious, a backdrop for a luggage company, utilitarian and practical. Was it too utilitarian for the French?" Marc Jacobs presented 50 looks, all very minimalistic, clean, no monogram shown, almost snobbish designs by way of replicating that clean generational wealth look, and to the surprise of many, featuring one singular bag, a white crossbody with white embossed LV logo. And so it began. Marc Jacobs was spreading the world of designer fashion with a touch of timelessness, each collection embarking on memorable, unforgettable almost. And I feel like with every ready-to-wear show, everyone found something to their desire. It was also wholesomely seductive, and again, and again. Jacobs has always been on the collaborative side of fashion, and he gave an interview, many actually, talking about how fashion really is a collaborative space. And there is a lot of muses and inspirations, tributes, and collaborations in his fashion gifts to humanity. His first collaboration was featured in Spring-Summer 2001 Ready-To-Wear, and that was with Steven Sprouse. Sprouse was commissioned to do a little something with the house monogram, and the graffiti logo was born. Another lesser known Steven Sprouse for Louis Vuitton was a leopard print. After the show, Marc Jacobs told the New York Times, "It was disrespectful and respectful at the same time, and I think that is why it worked. When Steven Sprouse passed in 2009, the collaboration was revived in his honor." Sprouse Louis Vuitton logo is seen in more shows, notably in Jacobs' last one and Louis Vuitton. Also, these graffiti pieces are collector's items to date. I personally am X-ray scanning for those, just in case the perfect match is waiting somewhere in there, just for me. And I'm not saying I'm doing that on a daily basis, but I'm also not saying that. Spring-Summer 2008. Tapping into music sphere, Marc Jacobs finds inspiration in Richard Prince's design of Sonic Youth's album cover, Sonic Nurses, featuring one of his nurses' paintings. Jacobs then opens his show, sending down 12 models turned nurses, with each wearing a black lace mask, vinyl coats, and hats emblazoned with letters that altogether made up Louis Vuitton. Original supermodels like Stephanie Seymour, Naomi Campbell, Eva Herzigova, and Nadia Auermann walking among them. And I have recently came across this gorgeous bag from that collection, and the only thing stopping me is that I paid rent this month and I'm just moving right along. 9. Drawing inspiration from Paris in two different eras, a hint of 1940s and 1980s, featuring Art Deco in metallics, python, crystals, the spirit of wanting to dress up in tough times. Tiny floppy skirts, cinch waist, padded shoulder jackets, meshy tops and dresses, and absolutely brilliantly elegant white leg trousers, shapes and silhouettes. And then about 5,000 different accessories, tribal art references in necklaces and earrings, bangles, shoes loaded with feathers, and collages of abstract African faces. Marc Jacobs also presented an array of bags, poofy, shapely, with mixed materials, suedes and colored metallics, python and leopard spots. Autumn Winter 2009, 80s. Oh my goodness, 80s. The 80s. And the iconic bunny ear. Marc Jacobs and his creative team came up with it just playing around with accessories for their runway. Madonna then models for Louis Vuitton's advertisement of this collection, and it's rumored they've tried around 40 different colors before landing on the one they used. And Marc Jacobs, of course, gifted Madonna with a few pairs, and she then proceeded to wear a blue pair to 2009 Met Gala. Description of her Met Gala outfit. She rocked this Louis Vuitton ensemble featuring a sleeveless steel mini with a plunging V neckline and ruche sides with a poofy skirt. She styled the mini with a pair of thigh-high black latex boots and a large blue scrunchie. Spring-Summer 2010. Courtyard of the Louvre, models in giant afro wigs. And there is no simple or definitive box in which you could put this collection into, but collections like these would carve the Marc Jacobs label, as in it's very Marc Jacobs. Sporty, picturesque, military, layering, metallic, glitter. You see brocade, cycling shorts, pleats, army jackets, pockets, neon nude camouflage slips, LV stem, ombre, denim, looks and fringes. In fact, critics recall that all the action was in the super young accessories. Toggles, tassels and fur tails on backpacks and satchels. Those suede peg-heeled clogs, which are now somewhat of a standard in footwear. When Marc Jacobs took his bow, he was wearing a pair himself. Autumn-Winter 2010. Both in contrast and to complement his previous year's ready-to-wear collections, Jacobs took inspiration from the 30s, 50s and 60s, which you can see on the silhouettes, together with those square-toed, block-heeled pumps from with flat bows, paired with ponytails and very clean makeup. Autumn-Winter 2011. Breathtakingly decadent. With 4 porters guarding and manning the lifts in the middle of this night-themed set, models appeared one by one out of the lifts to circle the square space. These outfits were mind-blowingly sexy. The leather, metallics, patent leather, military hats, and those French maids with feather dusters. Be still, my kinky heart, okay? Who doesn't love a good dress up? And almost annoyingly so, back before reviving supermodels was a thing, Jacobs brought to stage Naomi Campbell, Amber Valletta, and closing the show, none other but Kate Moss. Not just smoking hot, but smoking a cigarette on a non-smoking day. Spring-summer 2012, creating runway shows takes some pretty big fairy tale-like dreams. Well, take a look at this. A huge white carousel at the center of the court carré. The models make their way around wearing a ridiculous amount of broderie and glare in pale pastel. Feathers, puffed drop-waist skirts, those fairy tale tiaras, and crocodile pumps. The cherry on top was, surprise, surprise, Kate Moss's return to Runway. The last woman standing, looking absolutely smashing in a white feathered mini. Around this time, there are talks and rumors surfacing about Marc Jacobs succeeding John Galliano as a creative director at House of Dior. He puts them to rest about a year or so later, saying he's perfectly happy where he is, and he actually never worked at House of Dior. Another show, another dream come true, another court career transformation. This time into a platform, a train station. Just that, somewhat casually, in the middle of it, a vintage, life-size locomotive served as a backdrop, while models made their way a la Mary Poppins on those gigantic platform heels. Look at this, absolutely bonkers in a very genius way. And those hats? Stephen Jones. Love a hat. Vuitton's famous damier provided the template for the checks. And large or small, checks were everywhere. The show is very 60s, bright yellows and greens, black and white, oversized floral prints. Shoes were pointed and not too high, and handbags came in a variety of shapes and structures, all finished with LV's signature damier checks. Wait, did Marc Jacobs just got fired? During his time at Louis Vuitton, there are stories coming to surface, rumors whispered about Jacobs and his heavy partying and struggles with substances, well, all the different substances. And whilst that seemed to fuel his creative genius, of course it's taken its toll, and we hear about his behavior and, let's just say, not the healthiest work environment. Either that, or Marc Jacobs' desire to focus more on his own label, or Louis Vuitton's desire to hire a new artistic director and bring something new to LV. Ultimately, the result is the same. Spring-Summer 2014 collection marks end to Marc Jacobs' era as he presents his last show at Louis Vuitton, confirming that Marc Jacobs and his business partner Robert Duffy will be leaving the group and will focus on bringing Marc Jacobs the fashion label to IPO. Swan Song. In punk or 19th grunge, he dedicated his last show to the showgirl in all of us, paying tribute to his muses, other female fashion designers who touched him along the journey, and featuring bits and bobs of their work in this collection. And whilst it was an all-black event, he didn't go mourning. Those gorgeous mohawk pieces made of ostrich feathers and, as always, a little bit of provocation. An outfit made of a G-string and the Steven Sprouse designed LV logo written all over his model's body, as Edie Campbell made her runway circuit in handcuffs and chains. And just like that, after 16 years of Marc Jacobs' reign, here comes the era of Nicolas Ghesquière. Ghesquière's first show was Autumn-Winter 2014, and on all the seats you could find a note that read, "Today's a new day, a big day. Words cannot express exactly how I am feeling at this moment. Above all, immense joy." What is life after Louis Vuitton for Marc Jacobs? In 2001, his secondary label, marked by Marc Jacobs, is discontinued as he wants to solely focus on the Marc Jacobs. 2007, Marc Jacobs launched Daisy, the Marc Jacobs perfume. In 2010, first Bookmark store opens on Bleecker Street in New York's West Village. And shortly thereafter, the concept expanded to Paris, London, and Tokyo, stacking photography, fine art, fiction, music, pop culture, and rare titles. 2014 marks launch of Marc Jacobs Beauty, which then announces it closing down in 2021. 2019 marked the launch of the Marc Jacobs, a new identity, the iconic writing not on the wall but fashions. It's all about the bags, the shoes, wallets, etc. Some of Marc Jacobs' most famous items under his own label are his bags. The snapshot, the tote, the bucket, the lunchbox bag. Oh, and the blue, this is the new Marc Jacobs bag as seen on The Devil Wears Prada. Marc Jacobs' vision and mission is everyday sexy. Aside from the bags, and I do recommend you check them out, Marc Jacobs' website currently features the Spring Monogram collection. To be perfectly honest, I'm a big fan. Granted, a head-to-toe outfit takes a lot more courage than I regularly sport, but mixing and matching with more toned-down pieces, like those MJ monogram trousers with a plain top, heck yeah! Creative, of good quality, and for a high-end fashion of reasonable price. Protect the skin you're in. A Marc Jacobs Foundation. Marc Jacobs started this campaign in 2006 in order to raise awareness of cancer. For $35 American, you could purchase a tee featuring celebrities posing nude, with all proceeds from the sale of each tee benefiting the NYU Skin Cancer Institute and NYU Langone Medical Center. Among celebrities who pose nude to help raise funds are Helena Christensen, Winona Ryder, Eva Mendes, Heidi Klum, Dita Von Teese, Naomi Campbell, Selma Blair, Miley Cyrus, and many more. In conclusion, well, there's none, aside from Marc Jacobs being absolutely fabulous. I do hope you've enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comment section down below if you did, to virtually kick me in the bum to do more designer talks like this. Please subscribe if you haven't already, like the video, tell everyone you know, and I suppose I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for being here. Bye!